This call is now being recorded.
Okay, welcome to Kidmissing Radio. Welcome to our very first episode with a guest on Anchor. My guest is Karen Stratton. She is the mother of Jody Ledkins. Jody has been missing from Kansas City, Missouri since May 23rd, 1985. That's almost 36 years ago. Can you take us back to that evening and tell us what happened?
Yes. It's Thursday night, and Jody should have been home right after school, which I found out her and her friend skipped school that day. So about 10 o'clock, I did not have a car. Jody called about 10 o'clock at night, and she needed to ride home. I did not have a car. Her father's car was not available to me. And so she overheard the conversation, and Jody said, "That's okay, Mom." She's like, "I got friends that'll bring me home." And I go, "Well, hurry up and get home, because of the fact that you were supposed to be home right after school." And she said, okay. There was no distress. There was nothing in her voice to give me any hint that there was something wrong. And I waited up for her, but I do have a bad habit of falling asleep. When I woke up that morning, her bed was not slept in, and she never came home.
That must have been terrifying.
Yes, it was. Yes. It still is terrifying because, you relive those moments, those hours and everything. And so did I understand that right? And was there something wrong there? So yes, you do. You feel bad.
So everything I read said that she had left her boyfriend's house and gone to her friend's house because she had a fight with her boyfriend and some friends that were at his house because they didn't want her to go with them.
Yes. What happened was she originally was with her friend and her friend's mother, and they're just maybe 10, 15 minutes walk from the boyfriend's house. And they had originally walked down to the boyfriend's house, which I did not know. I have to say this. I did not know the guy was her boyfriend. And so the mother and the girlfriend went along with her down to the house. And so then she went back home, do I understand it, to the girl's house. And they said they were present, or the girlfriend, her name was Missy, said that Jody called at 10 o'clock, which she did, but I don't make that a secret. It's all over that she called at 10 o'clock. And so then the friend said Jody told them I was going to pick her up off of Truman Road, and that was not true at all. And so other conversations that her friend had said, she changed the story around, and so Jody started walking home. And so it got confusing from there. But, yes, there was an argument. Jody wanted to go, and the boyfriend would not let her.
Was he a lot older than her?
Yeah, he's a little bit older. I don't really know the age difference because Jody's 50 now. At that time, she was 14. I'd say he's like 2 or 3 years older than she was.
Oh, okay. So about old enough to drive because she was almost 15.
The boyfriend? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jody was 14, yes.
But she was almost 15, right?
She would have been 15 in September, and she was 14 in May when she disappeared in.
Yeah. She's 4 years older than me.
Oh.
I was 11 when she disappeared. That's why it stood out to me on the police website that it said that, because I'm like, wait a minute, she wasn't my age.
You wasn't?
No, I was only 11. So she called, and I know you probably feel terrible that you couldn't give her a ride, but that happened, and
yeah.
She was involved with juvenile probation department. So you called them, and
Yes, I did.
it had to be absolutely maddening to find out 2 years later that they had never reported it to police.
No, because that Friday morning, that was the first thing I did, and I called her name was Pat Hernandez at that time, and I called her up because it was Friday morning, told her what happened, and she said, well, why don't we just give Jody the weekend, which was the wrong advice, but back then in '85, who knew?
Right.
And so, Jody never came home. I did do pursuing, trying to find her. And Monday I called Pat up, and so she said, okay, what she's going to do is put out a habeas warrant. And I,
What's
okay.
that?
Well, I thought that was like anybody finds her, the police or wherever, that she would, be brought back, to the juvenile office or back home. But all it was just a notification. Basically, the way I understand is that she just was missing. And so 2 years later, I called Pat up and I told her, I said, I've done all these things. Maybe she's just scared that, she's going to get put in a juvenile home or something. And can we she's going to be 17. Can we just go ahead and have the police themselves look for her? Because I figured it was just Pat looking for her. And so she said, sure. So I went in front of the judge, got all her paperwork, which I didn't read all the paperwork. I just know it was a stack of paperwork. And some of the things, dates and a couple of things was wrong in it later after I looked at it. But I took that paperwork as soon as the judge released her to the police department. I personally brought all that up to the police department, went up the stairs to wherever floor it was, and I gave it to this police officer. And he told me to sit down. He went into his office, and I'm sorry for saying these words, but this is what he said to me. He came back out, and he says, what the hell do you think you're doing? And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you reporting your daughter missing 2 years later? I said, I did not. And so what happened was the habeas warrant never did went out to the police department. It was supposed to have been a stop warrant. How would I know which is which? And so they had a big so they had a discussion, I found out later, at the police department. And they never did have any communication with the juvenile officer. And according to the law, a juvenile officer is still a police officer. They just take care of the kids. The police take care of the adults. I would have thought that she had been talking to them. They did not know anything about it. And that's why the case was 2 years cold. Other than what searching I did and things I did, that's all that happened.
Wow. I think I would have, at that point, ripped the probation officer a new one. Yeah. Well, probably not the smartest thing to do, but.
Well, the head guy that was over the whole juvenile department, I was so upset. I called him up, and I told him, I said, okay, this is what you did to my daughter, so how many other kids you got missing that you did this with? And he sat there, and he said, if what you're telling me is the truth, we have a problem. If you're lying to me, quote, unquote, I will blow you away. Well, Tom Jackman at that time was a reporter for the Kansas City Star, and somebody must have told him, because he asked me if that was true. I go, yeah, but that's okay because that was the truth. I did what I could do, and their department failed. And so how many other kids besides my Jody, what are you going to do? Apparently you're not going to blow me away. And so that was my greeting from the juvenile department. Never no apologies. Never.
Wow.
Did they say, what can they do? Now I understand they do DNA test on each kid. I don't know how true that is, but that's my understanding.
Yeah. Could she have tried to walk home from the friend's house? I mean, was it that far?
Yeah, it would have been far, and I even did a search, what would it be like if it was cold? So how long would it take for her to start walking uphill, downhill? And it was, if it was a driving distance, it'd have been at least a 15-minute drive, maybe a little bit less. But walking, when you're in Kansas City and you're going down one road and then you're going down Independence Avenue, there would be a lot of hills. And then where we lived was what they called the East Bottoms. And so she would have had to go all the way up to this one. I mean, there's buses that has to take you back and forth. Anyhow, it would have been a good distance for her to walk. So I think that never happened. I think it was all a hoax. I think she stayed at her friend's house, and they, for whatever reason, my opinion is that the friend and her mother kept her. That's my view. I cannot take it.
Yeah. A lot of things happened in the ensuing years, because Lord knows it's been over 3 decades. Okay. The Missouri River, which is huge, was dragged in 1997 because 2 inmates made some claims. Of course, nothing was found.
Yes.
You can't always go by what inmates say. They're not exactly the most reliable sources.
No, it was, I remember I asked about, why did they do that? And, whatever it was between one inmate to the other. And so, but those, civil engineers or something, when they went down that river, they were risking their lives. And I couldn't go see it. I couldn't bear anything that they could bring up. My mother and my uncle went, but I could not do it because in my heart, Jody's somewhere. She's not in the river. I can't even picture something like that. So, yeah, that was, they risked their lives. They did a good thing, but it was, a false thing.
Yeah.
And then,
sorry. Then you started getting threatening phone calls. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I had them for a long time. Oh, yes, for a couple of years or better. I take every bit of it, and I turned it in to the police, and this woman was really good, and she typed everything up because now the tapes are missing. So she typed everything up. I still have all the paperwork. I think there's, I don't know, because I got so many tapes. There's 2 or 3 pages missing, but they would say really, really terrible things.
Yeah. If you didn't give them money, they'd send her back piece by piece.
Yeah, they wanted money. They wanted Jody's other sister. They wanted to see her. And then they said I was going to find her in a body bag in pieces. And, you sit there and you think, here's this little baby girl, my little baby girl, and you guys are going, what has she done that you guys could be so evil? And I do have to say, one of the people who all those years has stalked me, I'm hoping she's listening because I invited her to listen to the talk show. I'm not going to say her name. But she apologized for everything she said and she did. And, yeah, that's good for me. I still need to find my Jody. Anything that she knows, I hope someday she'll find in her heart.
Yeah.
What is really the truth.
And I hope she listens as soon as I upload this when we get off the phone. Let's see. Did the caller ask for a specific amount of money? And also, it's very curious to me, and my mother mentioned this, how did the caller know her sister's name? It had to be somebody that knew her.
Yeah, exactly. How did she know the name? I don't remember if there was a specific amount of money. I've had that happen to me, 8 or 10 years ago, where somebody said, well, I'll give you Jody if you give me so much money. And it ended up I knew who it was. And it wasn't, their father was in a lot of trouble and they were trying to get bail money for their father. So I don't think that one way or another, but I've had that happen to me before, not just by this particular group of people, but they did it a lot more with violence. This person just said, I'll give you Jody if you give me so much money. So I traced everything down. I have to do it myself, always by myself. And I found out who it was, and all the money was for was the exact same money they needed to help their dad get out of jail.
Oh,
and
great.
of course they didn't get it. Yeah. So, and that's something else. Not everybody, and the only reason I have internet is to connect with other people who've got missing children, that also to do research, to, dig things up to find out about where Jody could be at. And so, and it helps me out with the media and people like you who's willing to help do an interview and talk about Jody.
Thank you. What was I going to say? I thought that these hideous phone calls were traced to a payphone.
They were.
Did they ever say where the payphone was? Was it local?
No, I found out where it was at. I found out even the route and everything. I don't know if this person's listening. He knew all that. And one time, I had everything on a map. I had the phone number. And don't ask me how I did it, because I truly feel there's an angel that leads me around. There's things I find out. I don't know how I do it. And
I don't
so
either,
anyhow,
because we looked and looked, and we found very gosh darn little.
Yes. And it's funny. I guess it's from being a parent or something. There's like, you have a connection. I don't know. But anyhow, I took all that paperwork, the map, the phone numbers and everything. And I remember I talked to this, it started off, I went to a house. And I wanted to get in the house to get into the people's trash. And so I called the city, and the city reported me to this cop that was in Kansas. And he approached me, and he said, I understand that you want access to this house. Why? So I told him why. I want to get in the trash. Everything's in your trash. It tells everything about you. And so he wanted to talk to me, and I took that map and that paperwork, and I gave it to him. And literally gave him everything I needed to know, thinking he's going to let me in the house and let me have the trash, which it backfired. They did not kept the information. I think I still have the map on me. Took my information, and they went to the trash and got what they wanted. Apparently there was something that happened in that house that it was in Kansas that they wanted to know about. So, he never did give it to me. He never let me do it.
Yeah. Well, what you could have done was waited till they put the trash out, because once it's curbside, it's public.
Yes, that's true, but the house was vacant.
Oh.
They had moved out. And the only reason I found out they were all out and everything is there was a house next door, and I sat on the porch. I don't smoke, but I had cigarettes with me, and this little nice man was sitting there, and I, wanted a cigarette, and I got all the information I wanted out of him. But the next house next to him is where all these kids that threatened me, they were in that house. And they came out, saw me talking to that man, because I used to drive a little red car, and they knew what I drove. And I knew I was in trouble when they came out, so I had to leave. But the house was vacant. The house was empty, and I just can't break into an empty house. I don't even know what would have been in there. So I did it, I thought, the right way. The guy told me that nobody lived in there anymore, and I kind of told a lie. I said, I got a job and I need to rent a house. And so he told me to call City Hall, and that's how that happened.
Hey, whatever works. You'd make a good cop.
You got it.
A private
Whatever
investigator.
works, who cares? You want a pack of cigarettes, you can have it, But he didn't say anything bad about the people in the house. He just said, well, if you want to rent it, you have to call City Hall. And I go, okay.
Well, sometimes kids, teenagers, especially back then, would hang out in abandoned houses as party houses.
Exactly. You're right. I don't know. these were a couple adults and underage kids. So I don't know exactly how many people was in the house, but I know there was at least a couple adults and there was underage kids. You know, the underage kids, no matter what they did, there's nothing you could do to them except put them in the juvenile hall, and then sooner or later they get out. The adult gets away with it, and the adults knew what they were doing. So that's how that was being operated.
Now, Jody sent a letter. Now, this is what was confusing to me. There was a letter sent to her probation officer in the 90s, supposedly from Jody. It was compared to another letter, which they said she sent to a probation officer earlier. But if you look at the other letter, it was a letter she sent to you earlier. And the handwriting is not remotely the same.
Yep, they said that it wasn't her handwriting. I still have both letters, and neither one looks alike. One said, I think if I remember right, paraphrasing, someday I'll get back with you and I'll let you know why I'm gone. Basically, that's what she was saying. And, but when I got that letter, or I got to have a copy of it, Pat, the probation officer at that time, I went up to her office. Somebody else was with me, and I asked her, have you heard anything? It's better to face eye to eye talking to people. And, and so she said, well, matter of fact, I did get a letter. She never even told me she got it. She pulled out her drawer and showed me the letter. And I thought, why would you not tell me? Hey, call me up.
Why would you not tell the police?
Yeah, why wouldn't you tell? She never did contact the police. I don't know what happened there. That has always been a void. I have no clue. And she's not with the juvenile department anymore that I know of. But, why doesn't people...
She probably retired.
Yeah, she probably did. And then, there was a question I asked you if I could bring up. And I wanted to bring this up. But
absolutely. My mother and I both looked at it and went, huh?
It's another strange situation. It's like somebody keeps putting a block in front of me to keep me from finding Jody. But I was living in Sedalia, Missouri, and I found out that my mom and my uncle at that time, they both were still alive. They said the police came by and said Jody's dead. And I go, no, she's not. How? Okay, then where's she at? Where's my Jody? And they said, they never said anything. They just came by to announce or give her information that she was gone. Nobody came by me. And so apparently the police went past Sedalia, like you're going to St. Louis to this other town, and they turned around and told the stepmother, which was Jody's dad's second wife, and they had a little boy together. And the boy even told me that he remembers the police sitting there telling his mom that Jody is dead. I go, why would I am the mother? You go to my house. Why would you drive all the way to wherever in East Missouri and tell the stepmother, who's got nothing, that they're already separated and divorced? Why would they go clear to Missouri to say that? And I go, okay, you're saying it. So I called the Kansas City Police Department and asked them about it. And the detective said, we didn't do that. So, that takes a lot of guts for somebody to dress up men. We're not talking about, a couple of kids. We're talking about men, two men that stopped by my mother's house, had her address. And I didn't even have the address to the stepmother. And these men posing, which should be illegal, as cops, to go and announce something like that, but yet didn't say where she was at.
Were they uniformed? Did they show any kind of credentials?
I didn't ask. I was in too much shock. And the stepmother really was not a very nice person, so she would have never told me the truth anyhow. So, but my mother and my uncle, they were convinced, so I don't know if they really did show credentials or not, but credentials sometimes are easy to find and buy. Yeah.
I think that they should have the police should have investigated because it's a crime to impersonate a police officer.
Yes. So, but I never heard, he just said, no, it wasn't us. And I thought, okay,
Yeah, and as my mother said, how did they know who the stepmother was, and like you said, where she was?
Exactly. I didn't know. I just know she was east of Independence or east of Missouri, and that's all I know. I didn't want nothing to do with her. She's not been a nice person, and so why would I want to, keep in touch with her? And so, but how did they know her address? I don't know what it is. So how did they? And my mom's address? Well, okay, Jody. My mom was living in Independence in my grandmother's house, and after my mom bought it, and so anyhow, they traced down where she was at.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how far that is from Kansas City, but I do know that St. Louis is almost clear across the state because Kansas City is right on the Kansas border.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of the name of the town that she lived in. I just can't get it out of my head. I'll have to really look up my paperwork because I always kept a bad note. Well, I couldn't do it now, boy.
Well, like you said,
it was near there.
Well, east of Kansas City. Kansas City is on the Kansas border. That's why there's a Kansas City, Missouri, and a Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah, people get that mixed up. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right on the border.
So you tell me, when you got grown adults there posing as police, first thing in my head is someone's trying to distract my attention from having Jody found. And so, but why? What was the idea of going to the stepmother clear on the other end of Missouri?
Can't imagine.
So, it's always something like that.
Yeah. You've been given a royal runaround on roller skates.
Yes, I have.
I like that. Now, has her friend and her boyfriend and all the people that were at her boyfriend's house, have they all been questioned? I mean, I realize the police were behind the 8 ball because they got to start 2 years too darn late. But did they question everybody?
Yes, they have. They questioned him, I think, a couple of times. And the girl, the friend that Joe was at, they questioned her, and local news, the TV stations like Action News, they went and even interviewed her several years ago.
I saw that they had.
Yeah. And then they interviewed me again this past October, and I
watched that.
Did you? Yeah, I went up to Kansas City to do that interview, and they wanted to know, where we lived at, and then we moved over to where the boyfriend's house, which is all demolished now.
Yeah.
We went there. And I've been there. I've dug into their dirt.
Oh, wow. That looks like a fairly rural area for being in Kansas City.
Well, it's the inner city is really what it, where
really?
it was.
It didn't look like it.
Yeah. The East Bottoms is way down in the bottoms there, and that house was torn down. And then it's pretty much East Bottoms, a little bit more industrial now. And then where he lived at was over by the Sheffield Bridge. So that's all inner city.
Huh. It didn't look like it.
Yeah, that's because it was all grass, and you would see the only thing that's left is some steps that goes up to where the house is at. And
and it looked almost like a dirt road.
Yeah, it did look like that. There's a lot of houses down the road. It just didn't show it. What you saw was just the trees and where the house used to be at. And if the Google Earth, if you kind of followed it, you would look to the north side of the house and you would see the bridge. It crosses over from 24 into Independence Avenue.
And I'm going to assume, since it's Independence Avenue, that it goes into Independence, Missouri?
No, Independence Avenue is down in northeast Kansas City.
Oh.
Yeah, because 24, you'll see the Sheffield Steel Industry. You go across the bridge, and you'll see Independence Avenue. That's all northeast Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, forgive me for not knowing. The only geography I knew was that was next to Kansas, and St. Louis was nowhere near there. That's about all I knew.
You're a little bit turned around, but it's understandable.
Yeah. Now, I hesitate to ask you this, but you seem very open. I read somewhere, and I can't find it now, that there were, maybe on message boards, there was a rumor that Jody may have been pregnant at the time she disappeared.
Yes, now her friend wouldn't say anything to me. I'm trying to get in my head where I was told that. But anyhow, that was one of the things that I was told, that Jody may have been pregnant. And that always concerns me, because if that's true, where did you have your baby, And how can I find, even with her name in a hospital, they're not going to release information like that. And but that is true. Yes. That's true gossip. I don't know. Secondhand information.
Yeah. I found it interesting also that Crime Stoppers actually received 2 tips on Jody, the last one being in 2017. And I found that interesting because Crime Stoppers made a point of saying, when they said that we usually only receive tips on homicides. We don't usually receive tips on missing persons. Do you know what happened with those tips?
Nope, they won't tell me. As a matter of fact, I tried to call the police department today for a couple of questions before I started the talk show, and they're busy with another case, and he told me to call back tomorrow to talk to the sergeant. And I'll ask that again, but while I'm not allowed to know what it is, I'll just go into public records with the police department or get a hold of the police chief, and I want to know what that tip was from 2017. But I don't know what it was. That's just a few years ago,
Yeah, I know. So you didn't know there was one?
Maybe. Do what now?
You didn't know there was a tip?
Not in 2017. Sarah with the Action 41 News, she was the one that was telling me about it. And I said, I didn't know anything about it. There was one tip that's really terrible, but they said it wasn't Jody. And it was someone reported a shrunken head. And I go, oh my God. And I never heard that. I mean, the police did tell me that, but the one in 2017, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't generally shrink heads here in the United States. That's not
I
something
shouldn't
we
even
do.
laugh about that, because that's somebody's head. And I go, you're kidding me. And that was one of the detectives with the missing person department. She's got I go through this a lot. You have to break in every new detective that gets the case, because
I've heard that from family after family.
Yes, you do. And you have to break them in. Jody's case, last I heard of, was like 13 pounds. And one detective one time told me, yeah, that's big. That's a big, well, I didn't help. I add a lot of the pounds to that. But anyhow, he sat there and he said, I read through it. You read through 13 pounds of paperwork on my daughter? I don't think so, but I'm not going to, you might have skimmed through it, maybe.
Yeah. It'd take you a year to read 13 pounds of paperwork.
You're telling me that? Yeah. But, I gave him a lot of stuff, and
I hope you kept copies of every darn thing you gave him, because I certainly would have.
I have copies of everything, and I'm bad about this. My mother used to get on to me, but when I used to get those phone calls or anything that I found, I call it raw notes. I might have a piece of paper, and maybe in the corner I wrote something down, or maybe something up there. It wasn't really organized notes because it wasn't a normal thing, to keep organized, okay, so-and-so called me. This is what they said, And so I got all my raw notes, and I used to keep from maybe 97 or something. I decided to keep phone logs, and so I have them. But usually they're just raw notes. I call raw notes. They're all over in these couple of these totes, and that's what I have.
Yeah, well, I understand that actually because being a genealogist, I have those kind of notes everywhere. So I end up every once in a while taking all these loose leaf pieces of paper, kind of write all the notes in a notebook, getting rid of the loose leaf pieces of paper. Otherwise, you drown in paper.
Yep. You're right. My mother tried to type everything up and kept more organized on my notes, but her problem was that she was putting in her opinion. And she, I'm really so bad about you either tell the facts, you get the facts straight, you get the date straight, you get the time, you get it straight before you put it out to the media. And when you get it wrong, people get confused, they don't understand, and that's when you lose everybody's interest.
Yep. You're right. But it would be hard for you to lose anybody's interest because you're a fascinating woman. And you've done an amazing job.
I have slowed down only because I'm living in Arkansas. I had to come back down about 11 years ago to help out on a problem. Well, actually, I was down here for longer than that. And I was planning to move back up and get a place in Independence. And it seems like if it isn't those people blocking me, I have an emergency. So this last time, as soon as I get the money to move back to Missouri, and I hope that's soon, that's what I'm going to do, because that's where Jody was at.
I certainly hope so, too.
Yes, thank you.
So you're from Arkansas originally?
Do what now? Oh, no,
you're
I'm
from
not
Arkansas?
from Arkansas originally. No, I've lived here for a long time, off and on, because that's where Jody's dad was from. I'm always been from Chicago, well, outside suburbs of Chicago, and then I was raised up in Independence, Missouri, and I went to grade school and high school in Independence until I got married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jody's dad was originally the one from Arkansas.
And Jody was the youngest of your kids with him?
Yes. Well, yes. There's a couple more kids, but God was playing a joke on me. I didn't think I was going to have more kids, and then I got a couple more that popped up, so.
Oh, I thought that was with your second husband.
Okay, no, I have did have a second husband. He's talking to me now, but, the kids are from my first husband. I do have a son that's from my second husband. A little bit of complication there. It's, as one of my kids says, Mom, it's complicated. But my youngest one, Jamie, is from Marvin. And the other three kids is from Marvin. I have one child that's from my second husband.
Oh, okay. I just thought because of the age difference.
Yeah. There was a big age difference. I was really much older. So,
I figured you had to be older because, if your youngest of your first group was 50, you got to be in your 70s.
I'm 73 now, so, yeah. My kids, one of my kids told me one day, Mom, you're going to have to quit doing this. So, yeah. Well, you talk to God about it.
And would you quit if it was your kid? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
So you're younger than my dad.
Oh.
Well, my dad's gone, but my dad would be turning 77 if you were alive.
Yeah.
He
I was growing up in the 60s. Graduated in the 60s.
Yeah, he would have, but he had to quit school because his family was very poor and he had to work.
That's sad. That happens, but it's sad.
It happened a lot back then.
Yeah.
but he adored his mother, so he would have done anything for her.
Oh.
His father, not so much. But, but yeah, I want to thank you. Is there anything, I usually at the end of the shows will ask if there is anything that you would say to Jody if you thought Jody might be listening. Or, and also if there's anything you want to say to the person or persons that may be responsible for why Jody's not here. So both things.
Well, Jody, Jody is the sweetest. You are the sweetest little thing. She always was somebody's friend. She always listened to people. And if you could just let me see you and hug you. Even if you don't want to be around, just let me see you. I have to be proven that it is Jody, because I've had people call me up and play games on me. So I have to have proof that it's Jody. But all I want to do is see you, hug you. Do I have grandbabies? Can I see them? Can I hug them? Please just come home. Her dad's gone now, so, if there's a problem that came up that I don't know about, he's gone. As far as the people, only one person I know that might be listening in, and I've asked her and asked her. She's kind of coming through, telling me some things. I don't exactly always get the full amount of information, but if she could just call anybody, call you, call Action for News, Sarah, anybody, you don't have to tell me, but I'm on my way. You tell me just a certain address, and believe me, I will dig it up. And I just hope and pray where they could spread the word. Because when you're in the inner city and you got a community of people who are gangs or the inner city, I call them inner city people, street people, and they all, as a community, they know what's going on. There is so many people missing from that avenue, and they know. And so if they know something about those people, they know about Jody. It is not a secret among them. So I plead to them.
Yeah, and if you want to call and leave a voicemail on Kidmissing Radio's voicemail, 774-482-1105. That's 774-482-1105. Just leave an anonymous voicemail, and I'll give it to you. I'll give it to police, whoever you want. Probably give it to you, but do that if that's what you're more comfortable, because you're afraid of, repercussions, that's the word, from someone else.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Please, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're very welcome. I was so excited when I finally got a show and with a person, And I want to thank Mo from Deep Dark Truth podcast for teaching me how to record this and how to get this done, and encouraging me really and supporting me to do this. This wouldn't have happened without her. And I want to dedicate the show to my father's cousin, Carol. She was 84 years old. We just found out that in April she passed away from COVID-19 in a nursing home in Connecticut. So we love you, Lisa and Brenda, and we're very sorry. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank all of you who will listen to this. Goodbye and God bless. And remember, #MaskedUpMA. Have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.